on your side. This is WOWT 6 News, Daybreak.
A good Monday morning to you. I'm Emily Dwyer in for Danielle.
And I'm Dave Zavolinsky. Let's get over to Clay Oshley in for Rusty on this Monday morning. Warm start to our day, Clay.
Not bad. Temperatures out the door in the 60s. Some cooler spots in the 50s for the most part. And then there's Carroll up there at 48 degrees right now. But we're at 60 in Omaha, 61 in Plattsmouth, 59 Nebraska City. Tecama at 58 right now, while Fremont is still sitting at 62. We can thank the winds overnight that are still a little breezy out there from time to time, gusting up to 20, 25 miles per hour. That has helped us to stay a little bit more on the mild side overnight. This little batch of clouds already trying to work its way out right here. And you can see some lighter returns in the satellite data further to the southwest. So we are still seeing a little bit of cloud cover even further south than that. But it's going to get on out of here. We're going to see some sunshine throughout the afternoon. Look at this. Your afternoon highs today, upper 80s. Very likely that we'll see at least a few locations reach that 90-degree mark this afternoon, which if we do, especially in Omaha, would be the first time since last September that we've done that. Here's a look at your first alert traffic now. And right now out the door, dry conditions, quiet conditions as well at 90th and Dodge. You'll notice pretty light traffic for this time of the day even, and you'll get through just fine. No crashes out the door this morning either on the traffic map. And let's have a look at your drive times across downtown. 18 minutes between Elkhorn and downtown on Dodge, 13 minutes from Millard on I-80, and 9 minutes this morning from Bellevue, starting at 370. Dave?
All right, Clay, thank you. Well, an Omaha man is in custody after the Nebraska State Patrol says troopers caught him street racing. The patrol says just before midnight Saturday, a trooper saw two cars racing on Abbott Drive near Lindbergh Street Drive. The chase started when one of the cars refused to stop for the trooper. OPD officers were eventually able to stop the car near 25th and Arbor. The driver, 20-year-old Kevin Amaya, was arrested on a host of different charges.
Omaha police say a crash sent one person to the hospital early Sunday morning. Officers found a damaged pickup near 38th and Leavenworth at about 3 a.m. However, investigators say they do believe the truck hit something else before it ended up there. The person taken to a hospital is expected to be okay. Right now, police are working to figure out which person in the vehicle was the driver and to figure out the cause of that crash as well.
Omaha police are still looking for the person responsible for a shooting in North Omaha. OPD says it happened just after midnight Saturday as well. Officers found a man with a gunshot wound right on Highway 75 near 27th and Pinckney. His injuries are not considered to be life-threatening. If you do know anything, you're urged to call Crime Stoppers at 402-444-STOP.
The race to replace Governor Pete Ricketts officially begins today. On Twitter, Nebraska agribusinessman Charles Herbster touts today as a new day for Nebraska. Herbster, a Republican who graduated from Falls City High School, will make the announcement this afternoon in Fremont. He's a close friend of President Trump's and served as an agriculture advisor for that administration. Herbster briefly ran for Nebraska governor in 2013 before exiting that race.
An Omaha man convicted of murdering an 8-year-old decades ago has died while in prison. 64-year-old Patrick Russell was living at the Lincoln Correctional Center. Court records indicate he strangled to death an 8-year-old boy back in 1973. It happened in an apartment near 16th in California. Russell, who was 17 at the time, was serving a sentence of 110 years. A Nebraska Corrections spokesperson says Russell was being treated for a medical condition not related to COVID. 5 minutes past 5, Iowa is asking the federal government to withhold more than a quarter of its allotment of the COVID vaccine due to low demand.
Yeah, it's more than 1,800 doses of the Moderna vaccine and more than 3,500 of the Pfizer vaccine. Last Wednesday, Governor Kim Reynolds said 43 of the state's 99 counties had declined all or part of their weekly vaccine allocations for this week. There's no word yet on if Iowa will accept the Johnson & Johnson vaccine when it becomes available once again. Meanwhile, in Nebraska, 39.5% of the population has been fully vaccinated. Health officials, though, say 70 to 85% need to be vaccinated to achieve herd immunity.
As the U.S. resumes use of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, new numbers show more than 42% of Americans have received at least one dose. Now efforts turn to those reluctant to get vaccinated. The CDC is expected to come out with updated guidelines for fully vaccinated, specifically when it comes to wearing masks outdoors.
So stay tuned, it's coming soon.
We're increasingly going to see a world where people who've been vaccinated are going to enjoy a lot of freedoms.
We'll have more on some of those freedoms here in just a second. All of this comes at a time when the U.S. could soon have the same problem Iowa is having, more doses of the vaccine than people who are willing to receive them. And later this morning on Today, we hear more from the experts regarding last week's CDC advisory panel discussion to resume the use of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Former CDC Director Dr. Richard Besser will join the Today team for a live interview this morning.
A top European official says Americans who have been vaccinated against COVID-19 should be able to travel to Europe by this summer. Further details of the return of tourists to Europe are still being worked out. European Union countries agreed this month to launch COVID-19 travel passes that would permit people who've been vaccinated against the disease, recovered from an infection, or have tested negative to travel more easily. This morning, India is reaching a critical point. Hospitals are overrun as cases are surging. Our Lee Waldman is following the story this morning at the live desk. Lee.
Emily, good morning. Hospitals in India's capital are suffering a shortage of medical oxygen amid a raging coronavirus pandemic. This is a look at some of the hospitals there in Delhi. Delhi hospitals say they're only getting oxygen supply worth 2 or 3 hours at a time. Now, this morning, Microsoft CEO is tweeting out that he's heartbroken by the current situation in India. He says he's grateful that the U.S. is stepping in to help out, and he says that Microsoft will continue to use its voice and resources, technology to aid relief efforts and support the purchase of critical oxygen concentration devices for an area that desperately needs it right now. Now, according to the health ministry, India reported nearly 353,000 new cases of COVID and 2,800 deaths in just the last 24 hours. Emily?
All right, Lee, thank you. Millions of drugs that could have ended up in the wrong hands are now secure.
Yeah, in the U.S., cities held prescription drug drop-off events over the weekend, all a part of the National Drug Take-Back Day. Sarpy County sheriffs participated too. At the Hy-Vee grocery store parking lot in Papillion, they collected 14 bags of unused or expired prescriptions weighing at 423 pounds. The medications will be incinerated by the DEA to ensure proper disposal.
In line with National Prescription Drug Take-Back Day, pharmacies across Nebraska want to remind people to properly dispose of medications. In Lincoln, ReliCare accepts leftover or expired prescriptions or over-the-counter medications all year long. Pharmacists say safely and legally getting rid of medicines helps to eliminate environmental hazards that can result from flushing medications down the toilet. It also keeps them out of the hands of kids.
They get their hands on medications, they can actually develop adverse effects from taking too much of the medication. Iron supplements are actually one of the big things too because they look like candies.
Last year's National Drug Take-Back Day brought in more than 985,000 unused or expired prescriptions and medications.
New York City's Hate Crime Task Force is investigating a brutal attack on an Asian man that put him in critical condition. Want to warn you, this video released by police shows the man getting kicked repeatedly in the head Friday night in East Harlem. The 61-year-old man was collecting cans when he was attacked from behind and knocked to the ground. The man is in critical but stable condition. Police released surveillance images of a man suspected of carrying out this attack, but so far they have not announced any arrests.
10 minutes after 5 now, we could be seeing a meeting between President Biden and Russian President Vladimir Putin as soon as this June. That's according to an announcement from the Kremlin over the weekend. This all comes during a period of heightened tensions between the U.S. and Russia. The Biden administration recently hit the Russians with a series of tough sanctions for election meddling in 2020. The Russians retaliated by banning an array of top U.S. officials. All right, if you're thinking about finally hitting the road for what may be the first time in a year, you might be thinking about a new car.
If that is the case, there's some bad news for you that you need to know about. Plus, car or not, some Metro senior citizens are taking advantage of the ability to once again enjoy the great outdoors. We hear from some of them in just a couple of minutes.
Hey, good morning. Happy Monday. Up and at 'em and ready to go with KFAB's Morning News. Much to do as we suddenly turn to summer today. What are we going to